You lost me. Oh, man. Okay, it's just making the connection to YouTube is all. Live, the meeting is being live streamed. Oh, got it. Oh, Jesse, I'm live right now, man. You can see me. Okay, sounds good. All right. Oh, come. Daniel, are you back with us? We're live, actually. All right, well, I'm hoping Daniel will be with us right away. Okay, welcome to Hopeifiers Red Deer edition. I'm here with my bride in Red Deer, and welcome to Hopeifiers. Brother Daniel's with us. Hello, Daniel. How you doing?
So far, so good.
Hey, I missed you last week. Did you have an enjoyable Canada Day?
Yes, nothing. I did nothing.
You did nothing?
I just went camping.
Nice, nice. I went to the parade in Raymond, so it was quite good. Big pig parade, and then afterwards I hung out with there was some Indigenous singers and dancers, so we hung out with them and chatted with them a bit. So that was fun.
Oh, that's good. I didn't even know that there was such a thing going on. I was not around.
Their parade is huge. It's like a big parade. Canada flags all over the place and lots of people. So
where are you now?
Red Deer.
Ah.
Yeah, we're at Westerner Park in Red Deer. My wife's in a horse show, and then I come along and come and cook some food for her, make her coffee, rub her feet. That's my horse trailer job.
Ah, I see. Okay, that's really good. Well, I know it's quite a busy day and camping this summer, everybody's everywhere, but I guess from time to time in the summer when we stop, we just have a conversation. So I guess it's like we'll be camping more, but it's just a quick call. You said, hey, why don't we jump in the call and just have a quick talk? So why not?
Okay, here's why. I have a theory. I have kind of like 3 parts that I kind of put together in sort of a theory that makes sense to me. So I want to run it by you, and then you can help me flesh it out a little bit. Tell me where I need to improve on this theory. Okay, you ready for it?
Go for it.
All right. So you remember I told you I did that whole 23andMe where you spit in the bottle, you send it away, and they give you all your DNA results, right?
Yes.
And with that, and I'm sure my report is the same as everybody else's, if you go back 5,000 generations, all of us came from one of 4 black grandmas, all of us. So that was, at that point, we were all brothers and sisters. It was pretty straightforward, right? We all came from that same source.
Mm-hmm.
And then people, of course, migrated to all the other continents throughout the world, right? And those changes happened over those 5,000 generations that have elapsed since then. I might be wrong with the 5,000, but it's something like that. And at some point in time, this group of very acquisitive, they want more, not inquisitive, but acquisitive. They want more. So they're going to go to other lands and get more land, get more resources, get more trees, get more, all of those kind of things, minerals, precious gold, those precious metals, those kind of things. So there was this it's called terra nullius, or I've also heard it referred to as the doctrine of discovery, where basically back to Roman times, they had a conclusion that, hey, if you went to a country and there was no people on that country, you don't have to have any wars. You don't have to, you just plant your flag and say, this land belongs to Britain, as an example. And so that was great. That was okay. That kind of makes sense, right? If you go to another land, there's no people there that you could take that land, claim it for your country. Then what happened somewhere along the lines with that is that they kind of modified the rule a little bit. And the modification was, if there's no civilized people, the same thing held true. So if there weren't civilized people, you could take that land, plant your flag, and away you go. And how they define civilized people is by looking in the mirror. If they had white skin like this, and if they were like heteronormative, if they were believed in a Christian God, if those were the kind of things that determined if you were a human being or not. So then these folks go out to all these different countries and they go to a country where your ancestors lived and said, we can take this land, we can take everything here, because these beings here are not human beings, and we are, so we can do this. And the same thing with our indigenous folks. We come to these lands and we say, oh, these beings are not human beings, so therefore we can take their land, we can destroy their culture, they're not people. That's kind of how it works. So I figure what we need does, okay, first of all, Daniel, does the logic make sense? Does that little story kind of have some merit to it, do you think?
Well, so far so good. I hear you. Yeah, I
Okay.
hear you. I want to hear more. Yeah.
All right. So then, obviously, with that start and that erroneous conclusion that some of us are not human beings, then that led to all of the social ills and woes that we have. Further, to all of the ability to have even wars. You can't. How are you going to go kill somebody if you think they're the same as you in terms of a human being? You have to believe somehow they're less than a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think now the task is kind of where we have some kind of a ability to kind of conclude, to reframe that and say, hey, we're all of us, we're always human beings, we still are. Let's get our shit together around that concept that we're all human beings. It's got nothing to do with skin color or God or practices or languages or religions, those kind of things. So this is kind of my simple version of how we're going to solve this problem, Daniel. And can you get this thing organized maybe in the next couple of weeks? This we're all human celebration. We'll get that done.
I thought you already got it done.
Yeah, I think there's a few logistics that need to be ironed out. So,
I thought, you don't have a logistic.
No, sir.
Well,
anyways,
yes, that's a good one. Yes. So, yeah, I'll wait for your question and then I'm going to go for it.
Well, the next part of this, I think this informs the man box. And the man box has been something I've been doing a lot of research as of late. And the man box is basically things that we were taught about what men are. And in many respects, they've really limited our ability as men to be full human beings. Because as an example, the man box would have you believe that men are strong, that men don't ask for help, that men endure pain, that men are better than women for sure, and that you could, like, for a long time you could own women, right? That was kind of the thought process. So these things, and men don't have very many emotions. It's like angry or happy, and that's basically it. There's 3 emotions, whereas women have 100, 1,000. I don't know how many emotions, but a lot more. So in many respects, we were constrained, we as men being taught what we were taught, were constrained to kind of be less than a fully functional human being who has all this whole range of emotions, who has, all of these other attributes that obviously belong to all human beings. But we have been taught, oh no, in the man box, you got to stay here. And therefore you can't access these things. You don't want to be part of that, right? So I think the man box then informs a lot of how I know that when I reflect on it, I was taught a whole bunch of stupid things, and even about sex. What did I learn about sex? I learned it from kids my age, because there was no sex education when I went to school. So I learned from kids my age. Not a big surprise. Horny 12-year-old boys don't really know much, right? So, but that's who I learned it from. So I've learned a lot of really bad lessons.
So can you demonstrate? Can you?
Demonstrate? The man box, there's 2 groups. There's next gen men and a call to men. And both of them are trying to blow up the man box, make people aware about the man box, and especially for younger people who are maybe not in the man box in terms of they're a little bit different in terms of their interests or their appearance or their sensibilities, those kind of things. They're more sensitive, that they, to kind of free them, that they're not constrained from that man box, and they can still have a great life and be safe in our society.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you think we are still operating out of that in our society today?
Definitely. No question. Every movie we watch, it's always the same thing. The guy who's like super, super strong and smart and has all these skills goes and saves the girl and, you know, wins love, but defeats the bad guy kind of thing. And there's always a bad guy, and the bad guy often is ugly too, or different somehow, right? Or somewhere where you want to hate the bad guy, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, we're taught this all the time.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, it's these are an incredible big conversation to have, but in terms of the first conversation, which is quite important, it's important to remember and to have to create space to talk about that, even in a very in a longer way, maybe it's not in just one section, but in two or three. But again, when you talk about that doctrine, you're going back to medieval Europe. You know, there's quite a lot that really happened in the first century. And you know, the Greco-Roman Empire came to an end. Roughly, you're looking at a 475-ish, around then. There's a beginning of a destabilization of the empire and all those stuff. Rome is losing power. And then you know that the advent of, in medieval time, you have the rise of other empire. Ottoman Empire will follow later on, you know that. But in that time, Europe was governed by a certain number of Christian monarchs, and those had relationship with, somehow they're connected to the Pope. You need to know and remember that in 1096, about, the church was, that's the first split of the church, in the sense that you have the separation of one called the Roman Catholic Church, and then you have the Orthodox Church, which is based in Constantinople, in Turkey, modern Turkey, right? In Istanbul. So you have two. You have Rome, and you have the sense of Constantinople. You have, and so there's a split or schism. So in those days, so we are in 1095. So different things will begin to develop and take place. You know, in about 1152, you have the Crusade. But as Christian in Europe was actually seeping under the weight of economical turmoil, wars, diseases, they needed to reach out somehow to the rest of the world. So this Eurocentric world, which it was all centered on Europe, while it's falling apart, and they realize we need others. We need supply food, we need workers, we need slaves, we need a lot of things. So which led them to reach out. At that same time, you remember that with the advent of Christianity, there is also this zeal to bring about the gospel to other nations. And you got to remember this is quite important, because if you go through the gospel, you have the story of the Sermon on the Mountain, and you have this saying, this beatitude, which said, what? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
From
I do.
Sunday school. But now the problem is that the existence of that term, poor in spirit, and it presupposes something, that they are rich in spirit. Who are the poor in spirits in the time of Jesus? It was not the Jews. It wasn't non-Jews. It was anybody. It was predominantly the Gentile, right?
Okay. Wait a minute. Why were they poor in spirit? Clarify for me.
Well, because they did not have the Torah. They did not have the traditions. They did not have the law of Moses. They didn't have the prophets.
Okay. Okay.
The very thing that the people, the Jews, at that point, they had. To the Pharisees, they call themselves, they're the rich in spirit, because they have a rich inheritance. But the rest of the people were a Gentile. So they're called the other. It's quite important because you hear lots of conversation about how we otherize other people, you see. So,
Right.
so in that time, they would not, the Pharisees will not eat with a non-Jews, all right? Because you were not part of a covenant. You're not rich. But Jesus come, he said, blessed be not the rich in spirit. He said, blessed are the poor in spirit. If you think these pagan, they are bad, so blessed be that. Theirs is the kingdom of God. And Jesus said in John 1, verse 1 to 12, the scripture says that he sent him to his own, but his own receive him not, but to him and them who receive him, he gave them power to become children and daughters, sons and daughter of God. That's very, very important. So, and then Acts chapter 5, and then you have the dispersion of a church, and people are reaching out to the four corners of the world to bring the gospel. So there was that zeal. And then, so what happened in medieval Europe, there is a coming together of some of these Christian monarchs and rulers, and again, with the church, which, remember, the Roman Catholic Church, like was again in Rome, and again, remember the difference. So anyways, at that point, it was a church. It was a Western church. So they needed to reach out. So they came together with all the, well, obviously the emperors and all the colonizers of that day to reach out to the rest of the world. So they needed legal justification, moral justification, and theological justification for maybe occupying and taking over other lands, people who have not provoked you. So that's when you have that notion of discovery. Christopher Columbus discovered what? He discovered America. We say that he discovered, well, he didn't discover America because America was already, you discovering it. Yes, you see. So, but these was part of the sense of a theology that really, there was papal bulls that were actually just arrived at that really provided justification. And that when you went, the place was really virgin. And so you needed to colonize them. And if people were there, they were uncivilized. And you wanted to bring them civilization and the gospel at that time. So that's where you have this. So so they went and they began colonizing. It took over 300 years to discover Timbuktu, supposedly. Timbuktu. But in 12th century, Timbuktu was one of the wealthiest places. Kanka Musa is still the wealthiest man in the world. If you Google who is the wealthiest man in the world, he came from there, in Timbuktu. So it took over 300 years to discover, so to say, Timbuktu, which was really prospering somewhere in Africa. That's quite important. But for 300 years, whenever they try to go there, they die of malaria, diseases, and so on. Anyhow, they end up discovering and coming there, and then they end up colonizing. And in colonizing, they just say, these are, in many ways, to put in colloquial ways, they were less developed, because they did not speak our language, they did not know the thing we know, so we assume that they know nothing. And we assume it was just a white paper, and we had to inculcate them. We had to educate them. So that's what it goes back to the beginning of all the occupation, and it happened in North America as well. So,
hey, Daniel, hang on one second. When you were talking about the Pharisees and then the other being the Gentiles kind of a thing, that other, really the church's sanction of the colonizing acts was really part of that everybody who's an other really doesn't count. If they're not a Christian, they don't count.
But you have to remember that the church, for the early church, 2nd century, and it began to grow, and most of the people were not Jews. Some of them are Gentiles, actually.
Right.
So they had to redefine Jewness. They say, well, Well, you have to be Christian. That's it. That to be in, you have to be a Christian, and that was part of a conversation and part of analogy and understanding. So they reach out and they went and colonize, and in order to be able to own somebody, you have to otherize them. You have to name them by their problems, and sometimes we name people by their extreme. And so you have the conversation, and the colonization became a very powerful force. Domination of others. You got to teach them to justify those that they create. The doctrine continue. It's not even occupying land. It's beginning to say, well, you are not allowed to play your music. You're not allowed to sing your song because they're satanic, they're demonic, and they're totally other. So you have to do it the way we do it. And so, because we are familiar with our ways, and our ways are the higher ways. And so we begin to actually own other people. And we forgot, Acts chapter 17, which say from one man, God made many, And he said that it doesn't matter the many that we are, we all came but from the same person, Adam and Eve. And so we find all our origination in that. So this conversation is so important because it will become the foundation for the colonization and the alienation of many people around the world. And in particular, you just talk about celebrating with indigenous people, and again, that's it has taken so long for the church and society at large to begin realizing that, and those theological justifications were unfounded in Scripture. It was more man-made. That's really for anybody else who is interested in understanding. That's some of the beginning of it. Obviously, there's a loss of pain. And I don't know from your conversation, from your experience with people of indigenous backgrounds. Obviously, I'm indigenous to where I'm from too, myself. Well, when you talk to them, maybe they'll be able to share some of the stories that they knew, including the residential school and the conversation all around about that and why people are asking for an apology.
Yeah. It's on Canada Day when I was there. I was at my friend Jim's house, and the dancers and the singers were there, and there was this little girl. She was, I don't know, maybe 6. This indigenous girl.
Yeah.
Oh, are we still on? You're there. Okay. This indigenous girl, and then there was a little puppet thingy. I was hanging around chatting with their son. He's like 3 months old, and this indigenous girl had a little puppet with Old MacDonald's farm. And then I said, "Hey, do you know that song?" And I said, "You go on the other side of the couch, and you be the performer, and we'll stay on this side and watch your performance." Anyway, so we had this great little fun thing. She did her little puppet show for us and sang, and then we applauded and said, "Yay, what a great singer," that kind of a thing. But you think of it like, not that long ago, it could have been Daniel's on screen, lost Daniel.
I am here.
Daniel, can you still hear us?
Yes.
Okay, don't see your camera for whatever reason. So anyways, but the thought occurred to me, man, it wasn't that long ago when somebody in a uniform with a gun on their hip could knock on the door and just snatch her and take her away somewhere, and her parents would never see her again, right? Can you imagine being a parent in that situation? That'd be horrible.
It is despicable, those action, and we got to do everything we can that is we have in our power to be able to just make it right. And unfortunately, it can take years, 2 or 3 generations to be able to correct this. But I'm glad that we are beginning to do so. And I was quite encouraged to see the new Governor General is moving in the right direction. The Governor General of Canada, I don't know if you read the news, but that is a great encouragement. And I'm still looking forward to seeing leaders and the justice system and the police system that look more like Canada.
I did not hear the Governor General announcement. What is it, Daniel? Share that with
us. There is an Indigenous that is appointed as Governor General now in Canada.
Oh, I did not know.
It's quite an encouraging thing. It's a beginning. It's not it, but it is at least a move in the right direction. And I think it's just about time for us to see those things happening. But again, having said that, is that we need to be patient with one another. And that means nobody got it together. And nobody has got it together. Historically, if you go to history, there are terrible things that we all have done. But now from this point of view, when we look at life as is, we look at the inequalities in our society, we look at the ill, it's important to just say, hey, I was there by the fact that federally, that as Canadian, and that we need to do and rectify the wrong that we have done, because we have all done it by federal law, the sense that we are all part of Canada. That's it. Your conversation about men, about the sense that we are all the man box, that's something I actually think we need to have a conversation a little bit more about. And if it is okay, I was asked that we actually even create a space where we talk about that, because it has implications, because we only have 5 more minutes left. It has profound implication. It had profound implication on the role of women in our society, how we treat each other, and how we even teach our kids to be men. You know, that's quite a powerful. It's a place that we need to rethink quite carefully.
Yes, I agree. Next week on you know how I should have on Wednesday nights, 1,000 Ways to Be a Champion of Children, past, present, and future. The executive director of Next Gen Men, his name is Jake Sticka, is going to be on there. So we're going to have a nice chat. But that's their thing, is about making it clear about the man box, what it is, and kind of blowing up the man box, getting it gone, or at least being aware that it's an influence, right? So.
Yes, and I think it is quite a complex topic. It is it's a sensitive area. It's almost as if, someone would say, well, there's men, there's women, there's people of all kind of background and so on, and that there are specifics about who is a man and who is not a man. And then we invent categories saying, if you're man, you need to have these characteristics, and you need to feel this way, you need to speak that way, you need to be a hunter, and so on. While in history has really given us a whole a menu. And I think when we embark in a conversation about these categories, it's like, wow, we are talking about a loss of sacred cows. But it's interesting to hear that you have someone who will be talking to you about that on Wednesday night, and I think it's good for people to tune in. Yeah,
I think it'll be a good conversation. Yeah,
but it is so good to see you there in Red Deer, and you said that you are cooking and cleaning and and keeping your bride happy as she competes.
I've been trying to convince her, Daniel. She hasn't gone on this, but I've been trying to convince her that she should be nominating me for like husband of the century. I don't think she's going to do it.
Oh, she already nominated me.
Oh, I knew it. Damn it, Daniel. Hey, my friend.
Yes, but it is good to see you do that, and to know that also you are actually participant. And for our viewers to know that we want to be to do who we be, and the conversations like this and that like these are just what happened as we do who we be.
Exactly.
You know?
Do who we be. I love that, Daniel.
And I
Nice.
think that's really, really good. But I'm going to
Nice.
let you go back and enjoy your time like that. Make some coffee, enjoy yourself. But I'll pray for you, and
Thank you.
pray for me too. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Daniel.
All right.